In today's episode, I'm sharing with you our Christmas survival guide, which is taken from within our one-on-one coaching program. So you are going to receive the exact same advice, which is going to help our clients feel less stressed, less guilty, and hopeful and inspired on January the 1st. I'm also going to share with you the single biggest mistake that leads to unwanted weight gain and stress and anxiety in the December period. And it has absolutely nothing to do with mince pies, Yorkshire puddings, or mulled wine. So if you want to eat all your favorite Christmas foods, enjoy time with your friends and family, and potentially lose some weight at the same time, make sure you listen to this episode. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Never Diet Again podcast. Today, we are talking about how to survive Christmas and how to not let Christmas and the December period mean that on January 1st, you're full of regret and guilt and potentially 5 to 10 pounds heavier. Today, I'm joined by one of the Live 360 coaches, Mollie.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Mollie. Let's talk about it. And what I will say to begin with, this is the exact same advice that our clients are getting. So, you're getting this little bit of advice for free. So, this stuff works. So if you actually incorporate what we suggest, you're going to feel a lot more accomplished and stress-free the whole of December. But what I will also say is take the pressure off yourself to lose weight. I don't want this podcast to be something that just adds more pressure on you to fail. What I want this podcast to do and the information this podcast to do is just to help you navigate and manage Christmas a bit better than you have done before, and to not fall into the biggest mistakes that people make with the December period. And what I really, really don't want you to do is go completely overboard, feel terrible about yourself the whole way through. Then it comes to January and you're so desperate, so you're going for the next quick fix, keto, whatever it is. All right, so listen to this episode, take some notes, and we'll make sure that doesn't happen. So the biggest mistake that people make with Christmas is something, and it's actually not to do with food, it's not to do with overeating. I did a little poll on Instagram, and lots of people were voting, it must be because of all the Christmas food, the mince pies, the Ferrero Rochers, it must be because of the alcohol, the mulled wine. It's nothing to do with either of those things. The biggest mistake that people make, and this might be surprising, is actually to do with your mindset. And it's something that we call the fuck it bucket mentality. Had you heard of this before working with us, Mollie?
I hadn't heard of the fuck it bucket, no, but I've often thought, oh, fuck it before.
Yeah.
I think everyone has.
Yeah. So what often happens is either at the start of December or after maybe one or two social events where you've overindulged, there's a decision that is made that December is a write-off. There's no point. I've got all this stuff going on. There's no possible way that I could stay in control of my eating or my exercise or whatever it is. So you chuck it in the fuck it bucket and I'll start in January. And what that leads to is the whole month of overindulgence and excess, and maybe even going overboard because you're like, right, I'm going to do something really restrictive in January. I'll just lose the weight in January. So let's just have as much fun as I can now. And it means that you end up actually eating way more than you would have, normally, and maybe drinking more as well. So this single decision can lead to a whole host of other decisions with overeating, overdrinking, and potentially not moving enough, which, of course, will potentially lead to weight gain and 5 to 10 pounds heavier in January. But actually, when you zoom out and look at the reality of what's actually going on over the Christmas period, so we did a little poll with our clients, didn't we, Mollie, where we asked how many social situations do you have in December? And I think the busiest person said 15, which is quite a lot. I think on average it was between 5 and 10. So let's just go for math's sake. We'll go for, let's say that you have 10 social situations or 10 social events in December, including Christmas Day, including like whatever. So if you eat 3 meals a day, that means 31 days in in the month of December, you're going to eat 93 meals in December. Okay, so 93 meals in December. If you have 10 social events, then only 10 out of those 93 meals are you potentially going to overindulge, and could overindulge. So I don't know what the percentage is. I think we did it was like 16%. So 16% roughly of the meals that you're eating are at these social occasions where there's opportunities to overindulge. Our clients found this quite a useful perspective, even the one client that had 15 events, because it just kind of took the pressure off. It's like, okay, actually, I don't, it doesn't necessarily matter if I overindulge at those events, because there's, 83 other meals in which you can be consistent, basically. So I think this zooming out is really an important reframe to do, because if you're consistent the rest of the time, you could overindulge quite significantly in those meals, and most likely you could maintain or maybe even continue to lose weight.
I think it's really interesting because, especially, I don't know what it's like in France, but I think we started playing Christmas songs at the end of November. The Christmas period feels like it's 5-6 weeks now. So people, if they're already thinking that at the beginning of December, they have that mindset when actually they probably haven't even entered the 10 days of the really festivities, but they've already entered it as soon as they hear a Christmas song, as soon as they put the Christmas tree up, there's already that thought of it now being the festive period and, fuck it now, we're in December. But it's actually, I think, even from our client's perspective, really looking at when is that festive period for you? How many weeks or days does it really look like? And quantifying the days in which are really festive, with your family, you want to enjoy, and which days actually are just like any other day.
Exactly. And if you're American, it's even worse because you've got Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving was, I think, the last weekend in November. And sometimes it changes every year, I think. So if you're in America, you've essentially maybe got like a 6 to 7 to 8 week period of festivities and the holiday season, as it were. And if you are writing that off every single year, then that's potentially going to cause problems. What I would also say, what's worth saying, to take the pressure, and I probably should have said this at the start, but to take the pressure off you to lose weight and continue to lose weight in December, is that really the results come from what you're doing the rest of the year. Okay, this is what, I guess it ties into this fuck it bucket mentality, but people are always like, oh, I need to be perfect on holiday. I need to be perfect at, I'm on a diet, so therefore on my birthday, I have to not have dessert, not have the birthday cake. And, in December, I have to be perfect and not enjoy myself on Christmas. Your results come from what you're doing most of the time. That's what the point we're trying to get across here. If you've got 10 social situations in December, being perfect at those meals isn't what's going to get you the results. Being consistent with the 83 other meals is what will get you the results. So that fuck it bucket mentality, also known as black and white thinking or all or nothing thinking, is a huge, huge, huge problem. It's an incredibly draining cycle to be stuck in. It just leads to setting yourself up to failure. You're setting your expectations too high, which means you will fail. And when you fail, it feeds a critical inner voice and a limiting belief that you can't do it. So yeah, don't chuck it into the fuck it bucket. How can you stay consistent the rest of the time? And when I say consistent, it's just stay active and eat 2 to 3 square meals a day. Just be aware of that voice, which is, oh, it doesn't matter if I have this because I'll just do something restrictive in January. All right, so that's tip number 1, and that is the biggest mistake, so don't make it. And tip number 2, which is what Mollie was alluding to, is at the start of the month, just plan ahead. Set your intentions. Set your vision. How do you want to feel on the 1st of January? Get really, really clear on this. How do you want to feel on the 1st of January? Do you want to feel bloated? Do you want to feel guilty? Do you want to feel lacking motivation? Do you want to feel like you hate yourself for letting things get out of control again? Do you want to feel like you've been arguing with your family the whole of December because you've been stressed about putting on more weight and you've been going mad in the back of your mind whilst everyone else has been enjoying themselves? If you want to feel like that, then yeah, do the typical things that you do every Christmas and January. However, if you want to feel inspired motivated, hopeful, happy, in control, then obviously you're going to behave very differently throughout December. And I think this visualization and thinking ahead is a really, really powerful tip and an insight that we give our clients. We get them to do it at the start of the program. We get them to visualize who they want to be and why that's important to them 5 years into the future. Because if you're not very connected with your deep why and what your vision is, then it's going to be very easy to give in to short-term temptation because you're not connected with the potential long-term benefit. So when you're real, and I encourage you, like you could pause the podcast right now. You could write down on a notepad on your phone or on a piece of paper and just write a paragraph of exactly how you want to feel on January the 1st. For me personally, I do want to feel motivated and inspired and hopeful. And that's why usually I really don't enjoy going out and partying and drinking on New Year's Eve at all, which really annoys my wife. I've spent plenty of New Year's Eves by myself. One New Year's Eve I walked for 24 hours overnight, walking 100 kilometers to do a little challenge. And I really like that space to feel motivated, inspired, and set my intentions for the year ahead, instead of the countless New Year's days where I've felt hungover and absolutely awful and hating my life.
I think a thing with setting intentions as well, I know something that really helps me with this is when you set intentions this early on, when you're then in the situation where there's temptation, there's a decision you might have to make, or there's influence, because you've already set that intention, it just takes away that decision for you. And, even you talking about New Year's Eve, I've already made my decision on my New Year's Eve plans. And as much as people are asking me, if I want to go to this party or, get involved in this social event, because I've already made the decision, it's out of my mind and, I'm really looking forward to what I'm planning to do. So just with intentions, it really helps our clients in the moment, especially when there is social influence, lots of fun, lots of distractions and temptation. You naturally go into it already feeling quite confident in, what you're going to do in that situation.
Yeah, 100%. You're front loading your decision making.
Yeah.
And that just you're automating your decision making as well. Like, it's a real skill in the moment to be able to make the right decisions in difficult situations. So there's no point in trying to put that pressure on yourself to be able to make the right decisions when you're at the start of this journey and you're still struggling. So by getting really clear on that vision and your deep why, you're making the decisions ahead of time, which is, it's a very, very powerful tip. And the more that you can plan and visualize and front load decision making in your life, the better results that you'll get. And our clients that do this repeatedly, they get better results. Life's easier for them because they're all busy. They've all, got, some of them have very successful careers as well as young families. They're doing everything. And the reason they're able to get results is just because they're planning ahead. And it's exactly the same in December. Just plan ahead. Look at the events that you've got. What could you tweak and change? If you're overindulging one day, what could you be doing the next day? Could you get some steps in or in the morning? How can you stay consistent with the things that not only continue to help you lose weight, but also just make you feel better as a human being as well? For me personally, it's exercise. I'm exercising as much as I can over the December period.
With another question, I only when you said this, but might ask myself as well, is not only how do I want to feel on the 1st of Jan, but how did I feel last January? And for me, I felt relatively good, but this year I want to feel more energized and more hopeful, more inspired. So even if, if people are listening to this and struggling to think about how they want to feel, reflect on last year or reflect on previous years of how you felt at the beginning of January. And how you want that to be different, and if you do want it to be different this year.
Yeah, 100%. I personally have like a little objective that I am almost a completely different person at the end of the year versus than I am at the start of the year. Like, I want to continue to evolve and grow so much that the old version of me. I'm like, yeah, thank God I'm not that person anymore. And that doesn't mean that you're ashamed of who you are or anything like this, but it's just that process of self-improvement. I'm definitely kind of addicted to, and it never ends, which I think can be daunting for some of our clients when they realize that the process that they're starting never ends. It can be daunting, but actually, I think imagine if it did end and you could reach perfection, as it were, and there's nothing else to do. I think that life would be quite boring. I think continually pushing through limiting beliefs, pushing through obstacles and challenges and mindset blocks, is a very rewarding. For me, it's what keeps life interesting. So yeah, every January, I'm aiming to feel more inspired and a different person to who I was at the start of the year. Cool. So building on tip number 2, which is, planning ahead, setting intentions and the visualizations. We then got tip number 3, which we use with our clients, and it's a really powerful tip. And we call it the traffic light system. So you can apply this to December, you can apply this to holidays, you can apply this to just your life generally if you are someone that has a lot of social events, a lot of eating out. And essentially, all it is using the 3 colors, the green, the amber, and the red, to categorize different social occasions. And each color will have a different set of behaviors. And essentially, it's all to do with the word restraint. So if you want to lose weight, you have to practice restraint. But most people, when they try to lose weight, they use a word with a different beginning with R, a different word beginning with R, which is restriction. So and it's quite similar words, but they have a similar-ish meaning, but there's quite a big difference. Here's an example. So I'm on keto. I'm not allowed to eat carbs or sugar. So when I go to this Christmas event, I am not allowed to eat the dessert. That is a restrictive way of thinking. And that restriction, essentially, is like being a child. When you tell a child they're not allowed to do something, guess what? They're going to be obsessing about not doing the thing, and they're going to really want to do the thing. And it's exactly the same with being restrictive. If you tell yourself, I'm not allowed to have sugar, I'm not allowed to have dessert, you'll do that fine when the willpower motivation is there, but the feelings of restriction and deprivation are going to reach boiling point, and at some point you're going to go mad, you're going to overeat, you're going to binge, and you're going to feel guilty about it, and it's just going to feed into this idea and this belief that you can't do it and that you cannot succeed and you don't have willpower motivation. So that is being restrictive. That is not what we want you to practice. Whereas when you practice restraint, it's essentially making decisions as an adult. So you go to the social situation, you go to the meal, and you look at the menu, or maybe you've had like a nice starter and a main, and you look at the dessert menu and you say, look, I can have a dessert if I want to, but actually do I really want one? Is there actually something I really enjoy the look of and like the look of on the menu? Do I have space for dessert? How am I going to feel the next day if I have the dessert? How am I going to feel afterwards if I have the dessert? Is this worth the extra calories? So slight difference, one acting like a child, one acting like an adult, and practicing restraint doesn't lead to the feelings of restriction and deprivation. It can actually be quite empowering. And this is difficult. Practicing restraint is a challenge, and you can get better at it over time. But essentially, that's what we are asking you to do for this traffic light system. So at a green event, essentially, it's something you're really excited about. You know the food is going to be amazing. It's with a great group of people, old friends, your family, and you just want to enjoy yourself and not think about it. So essentially, at those events, the green events, you practice minimal restraint. That doesn't mean free for all. I'm going to stuff myself for the sake of stuffing myself. Still eat mindfully, which we'll go into in a second. But essentially, you're not asking yourself so many questions. You're just you're doing what feels right. Then we've got amber events, which is kind of a gray area. It's it could be good, but it's definitely not a green event. Like the food, not sure. Company, yeah, I'm looking forward to the company. So at these kinds of events, when you're not as excited and it's not the food isn't excellent, then probably practice a bit more restraint. So you're asking yourself more of those questions, like, do I really want dessert? Do I really want another drink? How am I going to feel the next day? And asking yourself those questions, practicing mindfulness in the moment will lead to a drastic reduction in calories without being restrictive. And then, of course, we've got the red events. And this is, classic examples of this. It's like your partner's work Christmas party, which often, partners dread. It could be your own Christmas party. It could be something you have to go to, and the food is going to be utterly terrible. It's going to be some Weatherspoons, and pints are a pound. And at this, you practice the most restraint. So probably, if the food is going to be god awful and you really don't want to eat before. Have a great, protein, fiber-rich meal beforehand, so that you're not wasting calories and eating a load of food that you don't even enjoy. Maybe drive to the event, so it gives yourself a really solid excuse not to drink. Set the intention of only having one drink before you go. Basically, loads of restraints at these red events because you don't even enjoy them. So it's a load of wasted extra calories which you don't even want. You're like kind of feeling afterwards like, why did I do that? It was horrible. So use this traffic light system. So literally right here today, whenever you've heard this podcast, go and like color code each one of the social occasions that you have to go to. And this can really make life much easier, reduce the guilt, and really mean that the events you're truly excited for, the green events, you can be fully in the moment and enjoy and do what the hell you like, and understand the results come from what you're doing the rest of the time.
A big question with these as well, and I think it's more around the green and amber, but if if the event is seeing friends or seeing family, really think about what is the event for. Is it there for the food and the drinks, lovely food, lots of wine, and that's what you're going to enjoy? Or is it actually, especially over the Christmas period, really catching up with friends and family? And if it's more about the social event and what you're looking to get from it is that catch up and that conversation, and the food actually isn't necessarily a big part of the event, it might still seem like a special event for you, but it is likely to sit more in the amber section where that's not necessarily what you're looking to get out of the event. It's just to catch up with friends. So there's a bit of restraint that can happen there.
Yeah, I think the classic example that springs to mind for me there is kind of like what tapas is in Spain. Obviously, I live near Catalonia, on the border of Spain. And whenever my wife Lila and I go to a tapas restaurant, they're always just like, who the hell are you? Why are you ordering so much food? Because usually tapas traditionally came free with a drink. And basically people were catching up and they might have, a little dish. The food wasn't necessarily the main event, as it were. It's kind of more catching up with a friend and just a light bite to make sure you're absorbing some of the alcohol. So I think it's good advice. I think sometimes the food doesn't always have to be the main aspect of what you're enjoying. Focusing in the activity and the people that you're with and leaning into that and having fun with that instead of having the food the main event, and this kind of this belief or this switch that goes off into your head. Oh, I'm having fun. I'm in this social occasion. Therefore, I need to kind of overeat and make the most of it. So just bringing awareness to all this kind of stuff makes a huge, huge difference. So yeah, that's the traffic light system. Honestly, if you go and plan like this, it makes a huge difference, and you can apply this to your entire life. You can apply this to holidays as well. One thing we've mentioned a few times is mindful eating. So mindful eating, I'm sure like most people have heard it, but it's not rocket science, it's common sense. But the issue is it's so common sense, I think people, and it's quite boring, but people kind of brush over it. Like, oh yeah, of course, if I eat slower, then yeah, maybe I eat less. Or if I have more awareness, then maybe I'll eat less. But honestly, if you actually practice mindful eating, you will have a drastic reduction in the amount of calories that you're eating without even feeling like it, without feeling like you're depriving yourself at all, without feeling hungry. It is so powerful. So if you actually apply mindful eating, a few things are going to happen. You're going to increase the satisfaction of your meal. When you use all your senses to enjoy a meal, so you're looking at the meal, you're absorbing how it looks, all the different colors and the presentation. When you are smelling the food and really like, what are you smelling? And smell has a direct link to your memory center. So especially around Christmas, it's going to like really make you feel nostalgic. You know, that the smells of mince pies and brandy cream and whatever it is, all that kind of stuff. You know, if you're cooking the food itself, what does it sound like? Is it sizzling? You know, is it frying? And then, of course, how does it taste? And also, if you're using your hands, how does it feel? So if you really kind of use your senses, which is a classic mindfulness technique to ground you in the present moment, because often what's happening especially in social situations, or if you're by yourself, you're distracted, you're thinking about something else, you're having a conversation, and you're just eating and not even enjoying it, not even registering that you're eating any food. So by using your senses, grounding yourself to the present moment, you're going to enjoy the food far more. You're going to slow things down. You're going to feel fuller quicker. You're going to reduce your calories. It's just a really, really powerful way to increase satisfaction. And then as a consequence, you reduce overeating. When you are slowing down, when you're using your senses, when you're grounded in the present moment, when you're listening to your body, when you're asking yourself those questions, could I stop now? Would I be satisfied if I stopped eating now? We have something we call the hunger scale within the program, which is a scale of 1 to 10. And ideally, you don't want to be eating past 8 at the very most. But if you are not mindfully eating, and this is, I have a big problem with this. I eat quite quickly, and I have to kind of force myself to eat mindfully. I can easily push up into like the 9 and a 10 before I even realize it, and then I'm uncomfortably full, and I probably consumed 200 or 300 calories extra, which just didn't need to be eaten. When I was in Japan recently, I can't remember the word, but they have a specific word for this, which is to never eat past 80% full. And it's such a basic thing, but they have an actual word for this. It's part of their culture. And honestly, it's a massive paradox, Japan. We were there for our honeymoon for a month, so we saw quite a lot. I have never seen more restaurants in my life. Like every other shop in Tokyo is a restaurant. Yet the obesity rate is the lowest in the world of a developed country. Like I didn't see any overweight people the whole time, I don't think. And there's many reasons for that, but definitely this thing of not eating past 80% full is a massive thing. And mindful eating becoming aware and mindful in the moment of how full you are and have I had enough and could I probably actually be fine if I stopped eating now. Think about it. If you're consuming 10 to 15 to 20% less calories at each meal, that's going to make a huge difference in the reduction of calories without you depriving yourself, without you being restricted, without you cutting out the foods that you enjoy.
Especially with Christmas as well, I think it's particularly useful because often you're eating with lots of people. Often there's more sweets in the house, there's more food in the house as you're getting ready for family to come over. But these are tips that you can ask yourself, especially sitting there and breathing and smelling your food. And it might feel strange, if you're really eating your food and feeling what it tastes like. But these are things that you can do without any equipment, any, particular length of time that you can do throughout the entire festive period, even if people are around. So just starting to get used to these now and really taking the time to work out what it looks like for you. You can then use them, especially during that week of Christmas, for you.
Yeah. I mean, look, we have a mindfulness expert in the program. It's that awareness, practicing that mindfulness and getting better at the skill of being mindful will change your life in so many different ways, not just losing weight. It's changed my life. It's improved my mental health. My mindfulness coach, Ed, who has been on the podcast, I'd recommend listening to that episode if you don't really know what mindfulness is and how it would help. But yeah, he is also coaching our clients within the program because that awareness of how full you are, of whether or not you're actually hungry, of whether or not you actually want the dessert, of what are the limiting beliefs, the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions that are leading to destructive behaviors will change your life. And now can be a good time to start practicing that. So mindful eating is the second to last tip. The last tip, which is something that we've added in for our clients this year, is just maybe set yourself a little challenge. And I'll say this with a disclaimer. we don't want to add more pressure on you here. So what we've done is we're doing a step challenge within the program, and we're just trying to see if our clients can increase their steps by 20% to their usual weekly or monthly average. So if they're getting 300,000 steps in a month, which is 10,000 steps a day, 20% on top of that. So, aiming for, I'm not going to do the maths, but it's 12,000 steps a day, basically. Only do this if it's going to fit into your life, and it's just a bit of fun. But keeping this in mind is a bit of extrinsic motivation, like, oh, no, I've got this challenge that I've set myself, so I will go out and get the steps, even though I feel a bit full and don't feel like getting out. And I think steps is a good one because it's free. It's safe. It's not going to destroy your hunger levels. You can also get your family involved. Like, this is a great time if you are a family who traditionally just kind of sits down all day and eats throughout the whole Christmas period, then maybe this can be a bit of a shake-up for you. Like, no, let's change this. Let's create some new traditions. Let's go out on a little walk, before the meal. Let's go out on a big walk on Boxing Day. Let's walk the dogs. And that's, that I've grown up in a family where that is normalized. We always go off on a big walk. Well, actually now, me, my dad, and my brother, we do workouts we're all very competitive. My dad lives here. He's got a rowing machine. He's like a world record holder for his age group rowing. So we do like a little rowing workout, and we do some cold water therapy afterwards. And that's got nothing to do with because we want to earn our calories. Not at all. It's because we generally enjoy it and we feel good doing it. So yeah, be the leader. Try and up your steps over the December period. Get all your family involved. You will all feel less stressed, more energized, better within yourselves, more connected to nature and more connected with each other, just going out and getting a walk in. Maybe it will reduce the traditional family arguments that happen because you've gone out and reduced your stress and anxiety and frustration getting a nice walk in. So yeah, set a step count challenge. Don't go overboard, just 10 to 20% more than what you usually do. If you've got time off work, make the most of it. Go off and spend time outdoors, because really the alternative is you're inside sitting on your phone. Let's face it, that's what people are doing. So instead of phone use drastically increasing, go outside, get the steps in. Potentially it will lead to more of a calorie burn, which could lead to weight loss.
I think you can apply this as well to even work. So many of our clients are in quite busy jobs. If actually your team, do you have a step? Could you start walking with your team? Could you have a bit of a step challenge with other colleagues at work, even friends? We had a big conversation today about the type of things that you do at Christmas, and even thinking about those rather than sitting and watching Christmas films every day. Could you actually do something a little bit different? Could you go out and play some sport? So just actually thinking about, and again, reflecting on last year, but also what you could do differently around finding opportunities to have fun that are keeping you active, and bringing in friends, family, colleagues to all do it socially as well.
Yeah. Having accountability partners makes life much easier. So not only are our clients accountable to us, the coaches, but also to each other within the program. And that is a really, being accountable to a community of like-minded people who are working towards the same thing is scientifically proven to increase the chance of you doing the thing, ultimately. So you're setting yourself up for success. Cool. So let's wrap up. Number 1, don't fall into the fuck it bucket mindset. This is the biggest mistake that you can make over the Christmas period, but also for the rest of your life. Because the issue isn't the perceived mistake. The issue isn't, oh my God, I've indulged at 1 or 2 social situations. The issue is the reaction to the perceived mistake. And you are in control of that reaction. So I'm telling you here, right here, right now, don't chuck it in the fuck it bucket. Number 2, plan ahead and set intentions. How do you want to feel on the 1st of January? Like, literally write down a paragraph of how you want to feel and remind yourself, and that will front load your decision making so that you are so it's easier to make decisions in the moment. Use the traffic light system. So green events, less restraint, enjoy it, be in the moment. Amber events, a bit more restraint, ask yourself questions. Red event, eat before, drive, don't drink, and don't waste the calories. Mindful eating, use your senses, slow down, ask yourself questions. Am I full? Could I be satisfied if I stop eating now? Am I roughly 80% full? This will drastically increase the satisfaction of your meals and reduce overeating and unnecessary calories. Understand the difference between restraint and restriction. Okay, you're an adult. You can eat any food that you want, but ask yourself the questions if you actually want to eat the food. And conclusion is, take the pressure off yourself. Like, if you put on a bit of weight in December, so fucking what? It doesn't matter. The results come from what you're doing the rest of the time. And we will continue to release content and podcasts over the December and January period. But do not go and do the typical thing that you do every single year, which is go and do something, quick fix. I haven't dialed in the precise details. There's nothing I can share with you yet, but just as a little teaser, I will be running a live workshop potentially on the 1st of January, where you guys can come and join live and ask questions, and I'll be talking about specific things to get you started for the year ahead. So if you're thinking of doing anything, I'm planting the seed now, do that instead of the typical things that you do. All right. Thanks very much, Mollie.
Thanks for having me.
And
Merry
we'll
Christmas,
see you.
everyone.
Exactly. Merry Christmas, everyone, and see you on the next one.